Alright, and with that, everything should be live now. I am terribly sorry for the wait, guys. So, unfortunately, the situation that led to me not being here when I thought I was going to be here is that originally I was going to be starting at 3:45. But my roommate is starting a new job, and he was going in for a drug test today. I'm his ride. Unfortunately, that drug test took longer than we thought. And then, while I was waiting for the drug test to get finished, I got a message from Pam that she forgot her medication at home, and me being the only vehicle, I had to go get the medication, take that to her, and then come home. So, there's the half-hour delay explained, unfortunately. And yes, random guy, OMG, it speaks. So yeah, it probably will say an error has occurred. Makes sense. Yeah. So apparently random guy can see things, but apparently a few other people cannot. Let me see if I can't... this is probably going to blow things up in my favor. Or not in my favor, actually. I'm going to see if I can't access the live stream itself instead of going through Streamlabs. And then I think in the finished version of this video, I'm probably going to be editing down some of the audio. There we go. Okay. Everything works now. Everything looks like it is finally functioning. Oh, there's why my YouTube is messed up. Apparently, it says that I'm not currently signed into YouTube for some strange reason. Okay, well, YouTube's slightly broken. Excellent. Well, with all that out of the way, how's it going, everybody? Again, sorry for the huge delay getting in here. I know that that's not terribly professional in a stream where the beginning of my stream, if you read the description, is about me trying to take things more professionally. Obviously, that's not working out the way that we originally intended. And Cirrus is just a mass delusion. Yeah, probably, more than likely. I delude myself in thinking that I have a channel. This is not actually a thing that I have. I just am here and exist at that point. But with that said, why are things breaking? A lot of things are seemingly trying desperately to break on my computer, which is not good. And Ocean, if anybody's fired, it's you. You're not here. This is obviously the fourth Hammered Out podcast. And you're not here. I'm kidding. This is not the fourth Hammered Out podcast. Those happen on Thursdays. Today's not Thursday. But speaking of Thursday and schedules, one of the things that I want to talk about, guys, is what's going on with the channel. So for a little while, I attempted to have myself stuck to a dedicated Monday and Thursday upload, with the Thursday uploads being replaced with the Hammered Out podcast every other Thursday. What's actually probably going to happen, though, is that that's not what I'm going to end up doing, because under that model, my channel started to stagnate a little bit. I sat at about 4,500 subscribers and slowly eked my way to 46. Oh, boy.
No one expects the banana.
And at that point, I realized that I still have my text messaging volume on, because me am professional. Don't set goals. It's the only way not to fail. But under that model, which I thought was the model I wanted to go with, I was not able to actually have my channel grow at all, which sucks. I liked doing the 2 daily uploads, or the 2 weekly uploads, because it meant that I could actually work on my gaming channel project as well. I've got a bunch of footage sitting in a folder for my gaming channel that I want to edit into videos, but this channel is my focus, and so under that model, it seemed like I might eventually have my gaming channel be my focus once it reached a similar subscriber count. It's nowhere near that, by the way. But I realize that's not what I want to do, because even though I love gaming, and I would love for that to be what I actually end up doing as a secondary thing, it would always be just that, a secondary thing. I would like this to be my primary focus, even though I'm primarily a gamer, as awkward as that sounds. No one expects the Spanish Inquisition. Yes, bananas. But ultimately, what I've decided is that there's models that other YouTubers have used that have worked well for them going full-time. Genetically Modified Skeptic does 1 video a week, and Holy Kool-Aid does 1 video whenever he's able to get one out. Usually it's weekly, sometimes it's less. And both of them are sitting in the 50 to 80,000 range, and then Telltale is able to get a video out, about twice a week. So I was like, okay, I'll try to use that model. Problem with that model, though, is that's a model that works when you're already established, and I'm established with a small audience. Granted, I love my audience. I have no intentions of losing the audience that I currently have. I love you guys. whenever you inspected the Spanish Inquisition, they always gave 30 days notice. Oh, that's horrible. And no, we're not starting a cult. That's just one of the topics that we're going to be getting into, Rusty. Obviously, I'm going to be doing a lot more interaction with the chat this time because I don't have a guest. It's going to be me talking with you guys specifically. And shut up, Ocean. So, what I want to do is I want the channel to be my full-time thing. But for me to do that, the best way for me to manage that in my eyes, and if you guys disagree, then let me know, but the best way I can do that in my eyes is to put forth the amount of time into this, if not more, that I would put into any other full-time job. So that means typically a video takes me between 5 and 10 hours to produce, because I like to have animations, I like to have end credits cards, and all that other fun stuff. I like when things pop on the screen for there to be a sound effect, so like I have a production standard for what I like my channel to have in a completed episode, and that translates into a lot of time spent building episodes. So about 5 to 10 hours is what I usually have per upload, between research if I have to do it, actual video production time, building thumbnails, etc. And if I'm doing that twice a week, I'm ultimately only putting in about 20 hours maximum into the channel, not counting time that I'm worried about marketing. And for those who don't know, marketing for a YouTuber is pretty much just going on to other avenues like Amino and Reddit and getting to know the people there and say, hey, I've got a channel over here if you want to check it out. What I think the best option for everybody, though, and yes, I do agree, Edwin, more collaborations are going to help as well. Unfortunately, some of the collaborations that I've had in the pipeline have fallen through due to schedules not matching up. I had one collaboration with Genetically Modified Skeptic, but we've not been able to match our schedules for the last 2 months, so we've not been able to actually manage that. I do have a collaboration here in about a little less than a month, should be before the month is over, with Holy Kool-Aid, and that one's going to be on Colloidal Silver. So there is going to be a collaboration with Holy Kool-Aid coming up. Tomorrow, actually, is a collaboration between me and a smaller channel, Elijah Davalos. If you guys haven't checked out his channel, I would highly recommend doing so. But that's the thing with collaborations, is that I also want to make sure that if I'm collaborating with larger YouTubers, which is almost... It's very transparent. When you're collaborating with a larger YouTuber, you're trying to cross-pollinate your audience. And you're also, it's usually because you like the YouTuber. Like, I personally love Holy Kool-Aid. I've met the guy in person. Thomas Westbrook is a great guy, and he's got a great channel. So I'd like to have him on my channel. I've had him on for a live stream before, but it's not the same thing as a collaboration. I'd like to do a collaboration with him. So that's going to happen. I also have a collaboration with Mr. Atheist. It would be like the 4th collaboration me and him have done. I also want to get another collaboration in with Prophet of Zod at some point. I don't know when. But again, me and Zod have collaborated plenty of times already. So the problem, though, is that I can't just collaborate with the people that are larger than me. My last major thing was a collaboration, I think, with Vice Rhino, where I did a guest video on his channel. Problem is that when you're doing those collaborations with larger YouTubers, you're gaining more subscribers on your channel, but you're not necessarily giving back. You're giving to a larger channel in that you might be doing some of the editing for them, and you're taking some of the workload off of them, like what happened with Vice Rhino. But what you're not doing is doing the same thing that they're doing for you for other people. And when you've only got 2 uploads every week, as well as one of those uploads every other week being a podcast, that only leads every 2 weeks 3 uploads. So if I did one of those uploads as a collaboration with somebody else, one upload as a collaboration with a smaller channel, and then one of my own, I wouldn't be producing some of the content that I personally wanted to make. I'd be focusing so much on collaborations, which are literally 3 times the effort. But then if I lowered the amount of collaborations I did, I'd be able to produce the content I personally want to create, but I wouldn't be collaborating and growing my channel. But if I move myself to a daily upload schedule, so uploading every Monday, Tuesday, all the way up till Friday, and then just giving myself weekends off, that'll give me a chance to collaborate with smaller channels, and then it'll also give me a chance to try to collaborate with larger channels as well, so grow myself, as well as grow other channels so that I'm giving back to the community that I'm a part of. Like with Not Joe Witness, I did a collaboration with him without even telling him that's what it was going to be. I told him that it was going to be, hey, hop onto my channel, just voice this over for me, and just add in your thoughts on what this guy is saying if you want. And then that ultimately ended in me just animating his avatar as if it was a full-on collaboration. And I was like, maybe I should just do that. Just anytime I've got a smaller channel on, just see what part I can give, and then see if I can't send some subscribers their way. Because I'm not a huge channel, but I have more than 1,000 subscribers, and a lot of the channels in our community are under 1,000. I'd like to get them up to 1,000 so they can at least try to monetize. And yeah, Elijah is, he's a smaller channel who does this in his spare time when he can do it without his family really finding out, which is, it's hard. It's not exactly easy. But I'd like to have, ideally, when he's out of school, I would like his channel to be enough to where he's not starting out with nothing. I've watched his channel since he was at like 100 subscribers and I was less than 100. Now that I'm at 4,500, his channel just recently hit 500. I'd like to see him grow. I'd like to see Notja grow. I'd like to see Frustrated Atheist grow. I'd like to see Secular grow if he actually made videos. Cosmological as well. But they don't have as much time to make videos, and I understand that. And Robert says, do I create my own animations? So yes and no is the answer to that. As far as the animating that goes in the channel, as far as everything, like every time something moves, that is me physically moving that in the program myself. As far as the avatar, though, the history behind the avatar, for those who don't know, and this will make the yes and no answer make sense, a long time ago, I made a Hearthstone channel, which is why my character looks like Thrall from Hearthstone. And when I made that channel, I specifically wanted the character to look like the character whose deck I was playing at the time, strictly so I could make top 10 videos and use him to like point at the numbers and go, ha! This is number 1, this is number 2. That channel ended up falling under because I realized that my passion for any single game, except maybe League of Legends, is not enough for me to carry an entire channel going forward. So I ended up dropping that project. When I wanted to build this channel, I found the 4, I was given 4 that I paid for, avatars. Is the one avatar with a few different facial animations. And I said, okay, I can do this. So I took those 4 avatars, and I used them as the basis for the 50 or so that I have now, different facial animations, blinking, and everything else, that I use for my channel. They're the base that everything is built off of. So those 4 avatars that I got, those I did not make, those I paid for, but every time the avatar blinks, I made the blink. Every time my avatar scowls, I didn't originally have that, I had to make that myself. Every time the avatar moves, that's me. Every time anything on the channel moves outside of that, obviously, that's also me in the editing process. And also, fun little bit of trivia, every time you hear the sound effect for something popping on screen and swapping off of screen or anything like that, that's literally just me going and then just modifying that sound a little bit. Because that's one of the other things that I learned how to do and I want to do more of is actual audio production. Building specific audio quirks. Like if you hear a laser blast, I can probably build out a laser blast as an actual sound effect as long as I have enough time to modify the sound in post-production. So practically every sound effect you hear on my channel that is not the background music has also been built by me from scratch. Jerome says, yo, Cirrus, I'm new around here and came after one of your collabs with another YouTuber. Your cult content is really good. GG to you. That's probably, I would imagine, Atheist Rationale, who you were talking about, right, Jerome? I'd assume so, anyway. The 4 OG avatars? Sure. Let me open up this. I'm not using Google Hangouts for this. I'm using Zoom, so I don't know how well it's going to actually show. But I can pull up those video resources. Let's go here. I have all this stuff actually organized, but it's organized chaos. All right, so let's go to... Oh, it's not through Zoom I have this, it's on Streamlabs. So let me see if I can't do a window capture on Streamlabs. That might be how I have to do that. So let's go over here, editor, add... Oh boy, display capture. Just add that as a source, add new source. Sure, we'll have that. That'll work. Okay, so ideally what you guys should be seeing now is my front there. Yep, you do. Okay. So if I actually pull up those avatars and pull them around, this is what I've got right now for my actual avatars. This is a question from James Marshall. The original avatars were this angry one. I guess I have to open it up with photos because Windows is little. This is one of the original avatars that I was given. Then there was also the default, obviously, that I was given. And there were two other ones. One of them is this excited one. Here we go. This was another one that I had. And then the last one is just going to look really weird. Let me see if I can find it. It's strange, and it looks so awkward. I'm trying to find it. Well, we'll just run through all the avatars, and I'll find it eventually, I'm sure. But it should be... It's got like a really derpy face. Also, there's Cosmological without his shoes on, by the way. Where are you? There we go. That was one of the ones I was sent as well. I have had no idea what to do with this thing. This is the 4th original avatar. And I have no idea what I'm supposed to do with that. This has got to be one of the most awkward things. And random guy just says, That's about how I felt, too. I have no idea what to do with that. I just know that it's a thing that I have, and I have not discovered a use for it yet. It's just there. It's just a thing that I have in here. I don't know what that vase is. And there's also that. Oh, the one time that I actually had my avatar get cut in half, I actually cut him in half. And then obviously the bulging eyes, which has become the actual face of the channel. Shocking but socially awkward face. Apologetic, okay, I feel you. Learned about Cirrus from Rhino, and Rhino from someone else. Okay, so if it is Vice Rhino, then that would have been the guest video that I did. When you mentioned the cult stuff, I imagined Atheist Rationale because I specifically started working on the NIFB cult stuff because Atheist Rationale asked me to do so and provided most of the research for that as well, actually. So shout out to Atheist Rationale if you're listening. I really appreciated you getting the research done for it. The only reason he didn't receive a credit in that actual video is because originally he told me he was worried that, you know, something about the NIFB was going to come down on him. So I offered, hey, I can just take care of it myself. I have no problems dealing with people coming down. I've already received death threats on my channel before. So for me, just getting one more added to the pile doesn't bother me. If it bothers somebody else, I'll take that off. It doesn't bother me at all. But ultimately he decided that he doesn't mind taking on that stuff anyway. So now he started to deal with stuff on his channel as well. So, with that said, that's where that ended up going, and that's how that collaboration. I see that Atheist Rationale is actually in the chat now as well, which is awesome. So how's it going? Let's see what else is in here as well. Cirrus learned about Cirrus from Rhino and about Rhino from somebody else. Don't recall who I was watching when I first ran across Cirrus, but he only had about 60 subscribers. Yeah, Purple Rhymes with Orange, I'll be honest, I've seen you in the comment section of a lot of the smaller YouTube channels. It seems like you've got a good finger on the pulse of like all of the up-and-coming YouTubers, all the people who have been pushing. Stupid death threats are nothing. Threats to sue are the real problem. Yeah, if somebody threatens to sue me, obviously I'm going to take that a lot more seriously than somebody threatening to kill me. Specifically, the death threats usually come in the form of, we're going to get ISIS to kill you, or some dumb stuff like that. I actually have a screenshot of one of them in one of my earliest videos, where somebody sent me over Kick a death threat, saying that if I didn't remove my videos on Islam, I was actually going to be receiving punishment from ISIS. And I just incorporated it into one of my videos going, hey, I've been threatened with consequences, guys. I think it came at 1K subs via YouTube recommended vid. I'm surprised any of my videos even got on YouTube recommended at all. Get ready to defend your position on Peter Pan. Yeah, oh shoot, today is Monday, isn't it? I completely forgot. We've got Geek Room. What time are we doing that today? Because I'll be completely honest, for some reason it slipped my mind that we even have that debate coming up today. While we're waiting on that, Purple says, been watching, trying to learn how to start my own channel. Is about as ready, but just as hard. Hard drive crash and lost everything. Hard drive crashes are not fun. In fact, funny story, since we were talking about the avatars. The avatars actually were locked on a hard drive I had no access to, because it was on a drive that was password protected on a computer that was broken. It was on a broken laptop, my old gaming laptop. I had no ability to use the thing, and it wasn't until I met somebody who actually was able to extract files from it in an effort to repair the laptop that I actually had access to all that data again and was able to start building out the channel with those avatars again. So it was very fortuitous that around the time I wanted to build a channel, I finally got access to all that again. I came from the Hitchens debate videos through Atheist Experience, Arn Raw to Vice Rhino to you. Hey, if you end up trickling down like that, that is awesome, because ideally you would trickle from me into people like Atheist Rationale, Not Joe Witness, and then based on tomorrow's video, hopefully Elijah as well, because again, I would like to see his channel get a little bit of grow. PROW, get an NAS. You can make your own cheap using a Raspberry Pi. Back up all the time. Yeah, back up all of your stuff. Personally, my stuff is backed up onto this computer. I would pull it out, but I have a laptop over there. It's backed up on Google Drive and on 2 USB drives. Because the lifeblood of my channel is in the ability to animate the avatar and build out the channel itself. If I lost any of that, then the entire channel would just wash out. So I have 5 different places that everything is backed up. Which is also beneficial in case YouTube ever decides to, just decides that they don't want to have me on YouTube anymore and knocks me out. That would kind of suck. My kid's laptop hard drive went pop the other month back. Had to get a new one to make it run again. Yeah, luckily, hard drives aren't terribly expensive now, so at least that's not that bad. Said, bought mine to the best techies in town. They were only able to recover 20% of everything I wrote in the last 2 years. Yeah, I need to get in the habit of making regular backups. You definitely do, especially if you have the ability to build out. Like, if you have the ability to build out just a file structure where you've got all the things you need, all the base items, get that saved as many places as possible. If you can't do that, then your channel is always going to be in a state of volatility. As an example, so for me, if I were to pull up my display again, just to show what my structure is sitting at, this is what all is on the USB as well as everything else. So right now, there's obviously where all the avatars are stored. This is actually, the opening animation that you guys see is actually these panels all spliced together. That's what the opening animation for the channel is. It's literally just these panels all spliced together. That's what animation is, actually. It's just frame by frame, putting things together. This is other stuff in case I need it. The Discord, you can actually use these on the Discord that I have. And then past that, every video that I've ever made, if it's needed files for anything, all of them are here. Including my gaming ones. So the ones that I used for Super Smash Brothers are here, but the ones that I also have, like my Jordan Peterson video, all of its resources are here. And then all of them are sorted very differently. But everything that I've built is here, and this is on 5 different hard drives. And you don't want to ever lose any of this stuff, because if I lost all of these, I would lose a lot of data and a lot of progress. Also, for some reason, I don't know why I named this file the way that I did, but somebody pointed it out when I've showed them on a stream before. Where did I have it? It says Gay Muslims. It was actually the video where I was talking about Biscuit when he had his homosexuality in Islam. And for some reason, I decided to name the folder Gay Muslims. But it always makes it funny whenever I've actually got that right there. And somebody's like, what the hell is that folder? It's actually the folder for this video right here. For everybody who's seen that. But I can go ahead and turn that back off now, since that's literally just what my file structure is for anybody who's... Aaron Raw is a gay Muslim. That's just my file structure for anybody who's wondering how the file structure for the channel is set up. So the biggest update is that the channel is going to be doing daily uploads now. That means that I'll be able to do more collaborations with smaller YouTubers, and then hopefully some more collaborations with larger ones as well. I should have another collaboration with Bionic Dance coming through the pipeline at one point. We haven't decided what specifically we want to do, but we both like collaborating with one another, so we're going to be doing another one here eventually. Wellington Smith says he's not a secret homosexual. I am not a secret homosexual either, in that I'm fairly confident that I'm straight. This is coming from somebody who's had the Godless Iowan spank my ass. I'm still confident that I'm straight. But James Marshall asks, how often do I make a new avatar? Every single time that I've made a video, I use the same avatar, but if I find that there's a particular emotion that I want to convey in a video and I don't have an avatar that I've pre-built for it, then I build a new one and I build it into the old one so that I can layer it on top. I try not to do that a lot because that takes a lot of time to redraw the face. Even though it's simple, I'm not a good artist, so building anything that even looks mildly quality is hard as hell for me. If I could get somebody to do that at some point, that would be wonderful, but I'm not that person. So generally, it's maybe once every 15-ish videos that I have to draw a new face for the avatar. Hopefully that trend does not continue once I start doing daily uploads, because if that's the case, then I'll be making a new avatar every 3 weeks, and that'll kind of suck. I won't have to do that. Praise be to our Lord and Savior, the Eevee doll in the background. There's more than the Eevee doll. Way more than that. I just have to get these organized. Also got a bunch of the other evolutions back here as well. But we're going to be moving to a house here in May, so the idea that I want to actually like set this area up, I don't want to set it up until we've got a glass case I can use, and we're not going to get a glass case until we move into the house, because I don't want to move a glass case twice. And the reason that we have to have a glass case is we have 6 cats. We had 4, and then obviously we have the kittens that you guys have seen on every stream for the last, as long as I've been doing streams since the podcast started, I think, is when we got the kittens. So I've not actually been able to do a whole lot as far as setting this area up in a way that's aesthetically pleasing. Obviously, I want to get more posters here, and I want to get this set up in a way that's aesthetically pleasing, but I can't do any of that until I get to a point where nothing's going to be knocked down by cats. Needs more Umbreon? Where is my Umbreon, actually? I have no idea where my Umbreon disappeared to. Roommate probably stole it. He does that. But no, I have no idea where my Umbreon went. I know I have one. It's here somewhere. I noticed the TARDIS. What is your impression of the female doctor? The TARDIS is not actually mine. I'm not a Whovian, but my girlfriend is. She's a huge Whovian. And I do not know what her impressions on it are. It's because I'm not a huge fan of the show. It's not something that me and her have talked about. But she is a huge Doctor Who fan, so she's got that. She's got a blanket that we have in the room as well that hangs up on a wall. She's a huge fan of them. Duo Pam will be getting more involved, even if she wants to stay camera shy. Yeah, she does not like being on the camera in any capacity. We've wanted to see if she could set up a blog about the cats as the kittens grow up on her channel. But she wants to wait until she's got an avatar, and she doesn't have anybody that can make her an avatar. And she doesn't want to use a copyrighted image as an avatar because, what channel was it? Barrington that did that, and he got his channel completely knocked down for using a copyrighted image as his avatar, which is a huge no-no. You can use copyrighted images in presentations because they are covered under fair use, but making your identity the actual copyrighted image is not covered under fair use. So yeah, it's definitely not something that we want to do. As for Holy Kool-Aid, I believe it should be November 29th that video comes out. I could be wrong. It depends on when we're able to get all of our stuff taken down, all of our notes, because it's on a science topic, so obviously we want to have our notes set up as well as possible. But that video is going to be coming out a decent bit later. We might end up doing something else in April, whenever Faithless Forum happens, but that's just simply by the nature of having a whole bunch of YouTubers crammed into one space. Just take a lot of videos of the cats and do voiceover, basically use the cat as an avatar. That's a thing. Plague Doctor says, are you a story-only Pokemon player, or do you enjoy competitive battling? I'm kind of both. During Generation 4, I was actually pretty competitive, and now I try to be retroactively competitive in Gen 2. Just because on websites you can battle with older generations and their older rules. I like Generation 2 for competitive battling personally. Outside of that, I enjoyed Generation 4 for competitive battling. That's probably has a lot to do with the fact that that was our first online generation, so it was our first opportunity to use the actual consoles themselves to play online against each other. Past that, I haven't really cared much for the competitive battling scene. As far as story goes, I want to be a story-only Pokemon player, and then competitive when I can. Problem is that my favorite story was Black and White, and I don't think we're going to be getting that ever again because people complained to Nintendo. They didn't like the story in Black and White. Robert says, if you're watching gay porn, you might be a bit fabulous. Probably. It's a program that takes pictures of you and produces avatars. Problem is that program might be a paid program. I don't know. And we do not have the extra money to spend on stuff. Just the monthly expense of running Zoom, which is only like $15 a month, but that's still an expense that like we had to talk about and justify. So paying any more for any programs is not something that I'd like to do. As evidenced by the fact that my Photoshop version is still CS4. Paying the monthly subscription for an updated Photoshop is not something I can do either, which sucks, but hey, it is what it is. Outside of the channel update, one of the other things that I wanted to talk about was new cults that we're going to be taking care of. Obviously, the NIFB is going to be a focus still, probably once every week or two. If anything new comes out about them or anything interesting comes down the line, I would like to tackle some more of them because I think the more exposure that we get, the better on them. I also like the fact that Telltale Atheist has been putting a bit of a laser lens on Anderson. The only problem I have with that is that Anderson is not the problem. Anderson is the leader, but if you take Anderson down, you're just going to be replaced with somebody like Matt Powell, or literally anybody in the NIFB. I think the organization as a whole is the actual problem. So that's what my channel will focus on when I'm dealing with the NIFB, is just the organization, not just the individuals. If there are places that do it for free, then I'll let her know whenever she gets off of work. Ideally, that should be something that we should be able to do just fine. But, like I said, the NIFB is one cult. There's another cult that you guys might not have heard of that it's actually going to be tomorrow's video. And it's a cult centering around a pastor named Joshua Holmes. It's a Texas-based cult, I believe. They don't label themselves a cult, but every ounce of them is cult-like in every way, shape, and form, and it's absolutely terrible. Where do you get your NIFB footage? Most of their footage is all on YouTube. Steven Anderson actually has all of his sermons put on YouTube. Matt Powell as well. You can find almost all of their stuff just on their channels. And that's one of the things that bothers me, is that we had issues like Skylar Fiction getting his channel knocked down for Matt Powell saying the rabidly incessant shit that he did. And yet Matt Powell and Anderson are able to have their channels up perfectly fine with no problems as far as I know, which I find a bit egregious. Now, granted, I don't want their channels taken down because I want them exposed. I think that the best thing you can do in almost any circumstance when you're dealing with insanity like that is to expose it to the light, and as soon as you shove it into the darkness, all you do is you let it cultivate and brew. So I don't want their channels taken down, but I also don't want any of our channels taken down for addressing them, which is what happened with Skylar. So that's just something that's very strange to me. Telltale, yes, if there's anybody that I would say is the forefront of cult exposure in the skeptic atheist community, Telltale would be the one that I would point out as the best one to do it. That's why I don't want to focus my channel on cults. His channel is focused on cults, while there are certain cults that I will keep an eye on and run videos on. But the focus of my channel is not cults. The focus of my channel is just battling extremism, or just bad ideas. It doesn't necessarily even have to be extremism. Have you viewed any of the Utah Outcast shows? I've seen their stuff when they were talking about Matt, mainly because it got incorporated into a bit of a propaganda slam against me and a bunch of other YouTubers. But past that, I haven't seen a lot of Utah Outcasts, but I also don't watch a lot of long-form content. Most of the time, if I'm watching long-form content, it's because I'm driving somewhere. So, like, when we went to the Godless Iowans wedding, that was a 15-hour trip one way and a 24-hour trip the other way, just due to circumstances involved in the drive. So I got a chance to listen to a lot of long-form content there. But usually if I'm home, I'm not listening to long-form content because if I'm working on a YouTube video, I can't listen to content because I'm having to listen to audio cues in the video that I'm working with at that time. And I actually just watched Telltale's recent video, by the way. It was really good, whether or not extremists are self-aware. Matt only puts his worst foot out on other channels. Not necessarily. Matt has put his worst foot out on his own stuff as well. Some of the videos that we grabbed, some of them have been taken down since then, but some of the videos that we grabbed for our NIFB videos was not stuff that he did on other channels. He will put his worst foot out on some other channels, though, just because this is just a theory. Their organization, the NIFB in general, it brings in those types of extremists, like they gravitate towards it, and when you show your worst foot forward, people who already agree with that mindset look at that and go, oh, it's another person like me. And it's a bit of confirmation bias for them that they're already right because there's a pastor who agrees with them. And then they go into the cult and then it ends up being its own problem afterwards. And then they get involved in soul winning and all that other fun shit, which is not fun and it's dumb. But I'm not going to get into details on that because I'll end up going on a tirade. I can go into details in an edited video when I'm not saying every 3 minutes, or more than likely because I've actually taken the ums out of all that. And yeah, Matt's definitely known for the all atheists play video games and they're horrible because of that. There's actually a 2-on-2 debate that's taking place this Saturday that I'm probably not going to be taking place in because one of the individuals actually has that view, and I think that if you're dumb enough to have that view, then you're probably too dumb to be a good interlocutor, so I'm not even going to give you the time of day. This is coming from somebody who had Multi-Tom-Tom on my channel talking about Flat Earth, so maybe I'm just full of shit. Tirade. No, I try not to deal with tirades that much. If I want to do a tirade, I have rant videos for that, of which I've only got 2 on my channel so far, and I'd like to keep that to a minimum, just because I don't think that they're very productive. It's just mainly me getting my opinion out, and my opinion's not necessarily a productive thing. My opinion doesn't do anything to change anything. It's not really an objective fact that I can point to. It's just me going, hey, young Earth creationists are stupid. We all know young Earth creationists are stupid. It's just one of the few times that I'll actively say it. Ironic, since playing video games is what makes someone a good person. I would say some video games can definitely shape you into a good or bad person. Undertale is probably a good example of one that generally will, like, show you what kind of person someone actually is. If they go straight for the genocide route, that's probably not terribly great. But if they go straight for pacifists, then they're probably either your standard gamer or maybe a little bit better of a person. And the whole there are no flat earthers, there are just trolls. I disagree. I think that maybe there are a lot of trolls now, but the flat earth movement, if you look through the history of their movement, they've actually been a fringe position for a few hundred years now. It's just now they're getting a lot of exposure, so now you're getting a lot of pose on top of the people who actually believe it. But they've been an organization for a while now. Even if, like, organizations like the Flat Earth Society were built around being a POE organization, and now they're prolific, so it's prolific that flat earthers are POEs. There's a lot of flat earthers that aren't, and the organizations that support them have been around for a few hundred years. It's really kind of mind-blowing that they even exist. But they exist, and it's just strange. And yes, random guy, I said Undertale, and I did say Undertale. As one of my favorite games of all time. I wouldn't say one of my favorite RPGs of all time, just because it's less an RPG and more just an experience, kind of like how Earthbound is less a standard RPG and more just an experience that, like, when you have it, you're never going to have another thing like it. Started out as a thought experiment. Yeah, it's the history behind them is just strange. And I agree with Atheist Rationale. The internet is definitely a megaphone. It's a megaphone where good ideas can be shouted from the rooftops and bad ideas can be shouted from the rooftops as well, which is not fun, but it is unfortunately the state of things here on the internet. Robert Roberts, if you've never heard of Undertale, I'm not going to be one of the Undertale fans. This is, oh, you've got to play it. I used to be that Undertale fan, then I realized that those types of people actually make people not want to play the game. Undertale is an RPG where you have the ability to choose whether or not you want to kill everything or spare everything. You can, when you get into a battle with somebody, you have the ability to reason with them instead of fighting them, and you can reason them into a state of pacifism where they don't want to fight you anymore. And you can do that with all the bosses, everything throughout the entire game, and it has almost 100 different endings as a result of that, because based on who you decide to spare and who you decide to actually fight, whether it's everybody, nobody, or literally any other person in between, your ending will be affected by who's left alive at the end of the game. Yes, and there's always anime in the game, because Alphys was a huge anime fan. So the anime inspirations were already in that game. It's just now that they've introduced, Mew Mew into the game, now it's even more, there's even more anime influence. But that was always there to begin with. Undyne also, it's like literally the epitome of the anime protagonist, even though she's not the protagonist. So I'd say that those influences were always in the game from the beginning. In GTA 5, when I let all the stress out of driving in rush hour traffic, you could do that. The difference here, though, is that in GTA 5, you don't feel bad when an NPC dies, but in Undertale, when you kill an NPC, they're gone. Like, they're gone forever. You can actually, even though you have random battles, like a old school RPG, you can actually extinguish all enemies in any given area, and they will never return. And then when you go to towns after you've done so, the towns will be missing people because you killed them on the way to the town. And then the ones that you didn't kill ran for their lives. So it's a little bit of a different experience. Not to mention with GTA, you kill a bunch of people, you get a bunch of stars, and the cops come after you, and then you hide in a house, and they leave you alone after a while. In Undertale, it makes you pay for your sins. In fact, actually, if you extinguish everybody from the game, when you get to the end, you are denied the ability to fight the actual final boss. You are fighting a different boss instead, who was your best friend in every other circumstance in the game, and it's the worst possible experience you can ever have fighting a boss fight at all. So it punishes you for making those decisions, and the punishments stick throughout the entire game. As far as Fable games, I've played the first one. I didn't play any of the other ones after that, but I played the first one, and I enjoyed it. Oh yeah, no, it's not much of a spoiler, though. The game punishes you for killing everybody. I didn't say who it was that actually will battle you at the end. I didn't say who the final boss is supposed to be, which is something that you're not going to know until you get to the end. So I didn't spoil anything. I just told you about game mechanics. Purple Rhymes with Orange says that I don't play video games or watch anime, so I notice a lot of references watching YouTubers. Unfortunately, I think that just comes from the age of a lot of our YouTubers. Like me, I'm 26, so a lot of my references are going to be about stuff from the 90s, or, you know, retro video games, things like that. Generally speaking, that's going to be where my references come from, which automatically means that they're going to be dated here in the next 20 years, which is bad. We should eject flat earthers into space and escape velocity. They could realize their mistake and we wouldn't get them back. I've seen a lot of memes that talk about that, and they're absolutely hilarious. Steffi, a game for torturers The Sims. It's amazing. Every Sims player does that, though. Yeah. It's true. If you're playing The Sims, you're basically playing God. You have the ability to murder everybody. The last thing that I really want to talk about, though, leading into, let's see, the last thing that I want to talk about as far as this video is concerned, though, as derailed as most of this conversation has been, as awkward as some of it has been, because I have a lot of ums, and this is one of the first times I've actually ran a video where I don't have a guest to play off of, and because I'm not recording into a microphone, into an actual editor, I don't have the ability to cut out my fluff. But the last thing that I really wanted to talk about is if you guys have ideas for videos, and there's a particular criteria that it probably will have to meet, send them my way via email, and I will see what I can do, because obviously making a video every day is going to mean that after a while, the creative juices are just going to stop flowing. Like, that's just inevitable. So having ideas sent to me is going to be a wonderful godsend. Pun intended. But as far as that is concerned, the criteria, though, is that if it's just somebody doing a video about like a logical proof for the existence of God, there are logical arguments for the existence of a God that are logically, I don't remember if it's sound or valid, but it's I believe it's sound. I don't really care to address them because the problem with those arguments always boils down to the exact same thing. Congratulations, you've logically asserted the existence of a God. I agree with you, and now we have the question of what God. Until we get to that point, I can't agree with any more of your position because it's almost always we've logically come to this conclusion, therefore it's the Christian God. Okay, how? How did you rule out Krishna? How did you rule out Vishnu? How did you rule out Odin? How did you rule out Loki? How did you rule out the universe morality sharding unicorn that I've posted in my earlier vids? How did you rule those gods out? They almost all boil down to that. I'm not interested in dealing with those videos, especially if they're like an hour long. There's not a lot I can add to the conversation besides congratulations, you've brought me to deism temporarily. Where do we go from here? There's really not much from that point on. Purple Rhymes with Thorn just says he's 54. He's just a lavender lady. They should do an old folks hangout. No one under 50. I would actually watch that just because I like Diana. Xenu's the one true messenger of God. Oh boy. And then how did they rule out Xenu? That's another question that comes out. How do you rule out other gods? And if it's, well, we found these other gods to be logically inconsistent, then the problem of evil means that the Christian God is also logically inconsistent. So now we've ruled out all gods. Okay, now we're just back to atheism. Congratulations. So, honestly, I'm not terribly interested in dealing with those types of videos. I might do one eventually, but it's not something that interests me. Extremism is what interests me because I think that that's the actual harm. Somebody believing that a God exists, the only thing that can really do is lead them into other fallacious beliefs, which may or may not actually cause harm. You've got flat earthers who are atheists, so you don't need theism to be stupid. You just need to be stupid to be stupid. And you've got theists who are incredibly smart, like Cygart, or even in some aspects Hugh Ross. You've got theists who are smart, you've got atheists who are stupid, and you've got the other side of the coin as well. So just disproving some points of theism, not terribly concerned about. But extremism, people who are anti-trans, anti-LGBTQ in any capacity, people who are like ridiculously virulently anti-atheist, people who want to push political agendas that increase the power of religion in any given society, those I would count as extreme positions that I would like to take on. Obviously, the NAFB fits this bill pretty easily. Use the Harry Potter equivalent to show the idiocy of biblical references. I like the Harry Potter one. I think I like the Spider-Man one a little more. If the Bible is proof of God's existence, the Spider-Man is proof of then the Spider-Man comics are proof of Spider-Man's existence because Spider-Man exists in New York, and we know New York exists. I like that one a little more than the Harry Potter one, just because in the Harry Potter world, Hogwarts is a hidden away place that no one has access to if they're a muggle, whereas in Spider-Man it's a character that is, demonstrably not there, but New York is the place that demonstrably is there. So I just prefer that one a little more if I'm going to go that route. I suggest a video series on defense mechanisms. Aptivus, what defense mechanisms would you be talking about? I'm curious, because that sounds interesting, but I don't know to what you're referring. You don't understand how much I hate the generic design, cosmological morality arguments, man. They don't help anyone. Supporting deism does nothing. Of course, it doesn't. Like, if you're a deist, you're functionally about the same as an atheist or an agnostic. You're still basically a religious nun, because you believe that a God exists, but its definitions would be so vacuous as to be useless. So, pragmatically, you're not even taking the same position as the standard theist would. You're still technically a theist in every sense of the word, but it just doesn't seem to be a terribly useful position. I would say that it is almost equivalent to just agnostic at that point. If you can't name any attributes to this god, then it's almost an attributeless thing, and at that point, why even think it's a thing? I would just be an agnostic at that point, which philosophically I am. Colloquially, I am an atheist. That's not a conversation I want to get into, because I've had it so many times, because I've been on Steve McRae's channel enough. Is deism religious humanism? Well, deism doesn't necessarily have to be humanistic. You can have a nihilistic deist who's not even a humanist. So I'd say no. Can there be a deist who's a religious humanist? Yes, but is deism religious humanism? No, not necessarily. Just like you can have a religious atheist. You can have an atheist pagan. You can have an atheistic Satanist. But that does not mean that all atheists are religious. Anti-process, cognitive dissonance, repression, regression, etc. That sounds like something that I wouldn't mind doing, but I think I would prefer doing that as an actual... I prefer doing that as an actual collaboration with somebody who's versed in psychology. So Mrs. Snarky or Shannon Q would probably be my go-tos if I were to do a video like that, because their fields are psychology. So they would be the people that I would ask when it comes to situations like that or building a video like that. But it still seems like something I would like to do, so I'll definitely put it down in my notes as something that I can do. In fact, actually, with that said, I should probably open up notes, because I'm a horrible YouTuber and I don't prepare this. Defense mechanisms. Defense mechanisms. Cognitive dissonance, repression, regression. Here we go. It is now in notes and horribly misspelled because it's in Notepad and I don't have spell check. But it is there. So that'll be something that I'll see about doing at some point. It's more useful than Christianity ever has been. See, it's weird. So, like, we live in this interesting time as far as Christianity is concerned, where most of the funding for science doesn't come from the church the same way that it used to, which is lucky. But 100 or so years ago, that wasn't the case. Even 200 years ago, that was not the case. A lot of the funding for the scientists, or even any schooling in general, came from the church. So if we had this conversation a few hundred years ago, I would be saying that Christianity is incredibly useful. Right now, though, I would say not. I would say that it's probably closer to a vestigial organ, in that it had a use at one point. It provided funding, it provided infrastructure, it provided a semblance of governance before we had more secular governments. But now we are not in the age where it's anywhere near as useful. Well, it has rules, scriptures, rituals, basically all the religion needs, just without the supernatural part. Well, yeah, LaVeyan Satanism would be the closest thing you would have to just an atheistic religion, because it is, by its own nature, an atheistic religion. But you've also got Buddhists who are atheists. That's another atheist, or that can be another atheistic religion. Some obviously believe in more divine powers given to Siddhartha Buddha than others, and that's where you get closer to a god belief of some kind. But for the most part, Buddhism is in the same league of Satanism as far as it's just an atheistic religion or religious belief. Anti-science and anti-media content would be good. Actually, I do want to do some anti-science and perhaps maybe 1 or 2 anti-conspiracy theorist videos. Satanism way more moral than Christianity, since Satanism has rules like don't hurt children, don't hurt animals. Yeah, I think there's an argument that Matt Dillahunty had that I actually really like. That was, I can write a better book than the Bible. I can just write the Bible and then write in one passage that says not to rape, and it's automatically, by definition, a better book. But it's the exact same book with just one more passage added. But it is a better book at that point. I definitely agree with that stance, that at that point you've written a better book. There are some things in Satanism that I don't agree with. For instance, one is that if somebody's in your way, destroy them. I'm not a huge fan of that rule. That definitely falls very well outside of my moral structure. But I can see where it can be useful. For somebody who has a more aggressive personality, it can definitely be more useful. For instance, my girlfriend has a more aggressive personality, so she actually likes a lot of the rules in LaVeyan Satanism a lot more than I do, because they functionally coincide more with her framework than mine. Wade's Satanism positions on slavery. I believe in LaVeyan Satanism, you cannot own another human, because everybody is their own self-made god. So you could not physically own another person in there, I believe. I could be wrong. If somebody's read the Satanic Bible more than I have, then they can probably provide better answer to that than I can. There is a societal rejection of reality, which is saddening. I can agree with that. I think people have the idea that they want reality to be less mundane than it is. But my view is that reality is beautiful in its mundanity. I think that the fact that there is a quantum realm, the fact that when I'm moving my hand here, that little feeling of wind, those are all thousands of individual molecules. I find that infinitely more beautiful than, hey, you die, you get to worship a guy. Like, that might be a bit of a straw man of the Christian faith, but honestly, I find the idea that there's a micro world that we're living in, thousands of small micro worlds that build up the world that we live in, I find that far more fascinating and far more beautiful than anything the Christian faith can give. And that is reality. You know, reality is you've got a bunch of micro worlds in you. You've got bacteria that live their entire life in you. You've got viruses and phages that live their entire life in other animals. Those animals are the world to those organisms, just like Earth is to us. That's way more fascinating than you die, you go to an astral plane. Like, that's the feeling of the wind. You just can't stay away from butt stuff. I can't help it. I spent 3 days at the Godless Iowans house. Logic and butt stuff is now ingrained in me. Although, I did apparently hear that toting a weapon across state borders is something that's frowned upon. Demonstrable facts aren't facts, and people whose job it is to spread facts and demonstrable events are liars. Yeah, it's just like when you're talking about something like evolution. I was on JMD Apologetics channel recently for an evolution talk, and whenever, I think in the beginning of it, I basically said when somebody says that evolution is a thing that didn't happen, they're basically saying that the germ theory of disease is not a thing that exists. They're saying that gravity is not real, because at that point, if you're going to throw out a scientific theory, you might as well throw out them all. And if you're throwing out them all, you start to have reality unwind a little bit. Some people have more bacteria than others. Yeah, we can measure fecal matter and pee to figure out how much bacteria these people have. I argue that reality is beautiful, and the most important part of it is whether or not it's beautiful is what we have. I can agree with that. I'd say that sometimes reality is a little less beautiful. It just depends on where your perspective is. For instance, for me, I live in poverty. I do not live in any type of, like, I live in an apartment in the middle of a drug town, basically. So for me, reality is somewhat bleak, but I still have friends and I still have family, and I'm still very comfortable where I am, even if financial stress is a problem. But there are people who have it way worse off than me, and for them, I would say our reality might be a little less beautiful. But then again, there are people that are way richer than me that are suffering from depression and anxiety and don't even want to admit it. And I would say our reality for them is pretty bleak too. So it really just depends. As a net, though, I would say reality can be pretty beautiful depending on what you're looking at. But if I'm just looking at the fact that just to survive, certain viruses will have to kill you, might not be so beautiful then. But the idea of reality as a whole, I do find beautiful. Creationism is just evolution on steroids. It is, especially if you have a creationist that grants microevolution, which most of them do now. But if they grant microevolution, then, you know, microevolution over a long period of time is just macro. So, you know, you accept that and grant the microevolution is the only evolution, and then you demonstrate that the Earth is 4.4 billion years old, and you're left with macro anyway after granting them the premise that micro is the only evolution. Which destroys their position with their own argument, which is silly, but that's what it is. Changes within kinds. I hate that. Death isn't for some people. Death is an improvement on the quality of life. Yeah. For some people, death is an escape. Like, honestly, death can be viewed as a way to get away from the sometimes harsh reality of life. I can kind of see where they're coming from. I was not suicidal until about 3 years ago, and I had some events happen in my life that pushed me over the edge. I've since recovered from those. That's obviously why I'm here. It'd be awkward if I died and came back. It would give me a track record not unlike Jesus at that point. But dealing with that, I can understand now how sometimes death can just be seen as a viable escape. I understand it. I did not understand it previously, but when I actually was forced into the mindset where that was the case, I understood it. I will grant that minutes occur, but hours cannot. Fine. And then what does 60 minutes equate to? You'd have to then demonstrate that 60 minutes have never passed. I've tried suicide a couple times. Biggest problem is after death, your options are pretty limited. From Purple Rhymes with Orange. I can agree with that. For me, the options after death being limited, the way I view death is that if there is an afterlife, neat. If there's not an afterlife, neat. I like sleep, so lots of sleep sounds good. But if there is an afterlife, then again, that's neat. I can deal with that when I get there. If the eternity is burning in hellfire, then I was wrong. And I can then blame the thug that sent me there, as Matt Dillahunty would say. James Marshall says that how do they say that humans and Australopithecus are different kinds when dogs have such variant morphology? Because they're working off of a false foundation. Like, that's where all that boils down to. You cannot create the thousands of dog varieties that exist right now off of only 2 dogs. You'll end up with genetic bottleneck. So they're working with a very false and terribly flawed foundation at that point. Steffi says, being an unemployed transsexual without friends or family kind of sucks. And when you realize that you could have been dead for 2 weeks, no one would have even noticed, it gets you thinking. Yeah, I can understand where that can be problematic and where that mindset can lead to. Unfortunately, that is reality for some of us. But at the same time, I would say that I am no less happy that you're here. If you did not exist, then you would not be here watching this video right now, and I would not be able to interact with you, and that would subtract from my overall happiness. So at least you've made somebody else happy right now. I know that's not a lot to say for yourself. I'm also not the best consoler, unfortunately. But I'm no less happy that you're here. So that's just me. A real Christian can't have depression, must be a demon and some shit. Yeah, there's been a particular person who advocated that Christianity cured depression, and I had to do a video on that. That was actually the first podcast episode, was dealing with that. That is my cat falling and taking down a bunch of boxes with it. Lovely. The absolute joy of living with animals. Maybe when you die, you go back to where you were before you were born, wherever that is. Hey, that could be the case. There have been several conversations that I've just not wanted to have with some of my Christian friends that have basically boiled down to, look, you can't demonstrate that a God exists. You can only assert it. You can't demonstrate that there's an afterlife, and neither can I. So we'll both find out the answer to that when we die. Show us the cat. I wonder if he'll come. Hold on. Hi, Leah. He wants nothing to do with me right now. Absolutely nothing. Blackie, will you come? Come on. Blackie, come on. You do it. I'll do it. Oh, by the way, I found the Umbreon. For those who are asking. Okay, come here, you little shit. You are the shit who made things fall. Come here. Okay, so you wanted to see the cat that made things fall. This would be him. Ugh. How's it going, Hylia? No. Say hello to the people. Just actively looks away from the camera. He doesn't want to. Why are your eyes getting wide? Did you see something? He's off to do his own thing now. Yeah, that was the cat that decided to make things fall down. 6-year-old ginger tomcat I picked up from a rescue shelter. He's currently laid on my bed. We have 4 of our cats are rescues, and 2 of them are the children of one of the rescues. All except the 2 kittens are fixed, though, so we don't have to deal with any more kittens. I'm happy with 6. I was happy with 4. I was happy with 3, and I was happy with 1. But that's not where we are right now. With that said, I am probably going to be ending the stream here in about 2 or 3 minutes, so if you guys have any other questions, let me know. And again, if you have any video suggestions or ideas or any extremist content that you want me to deal with, send that to me via email. My email's in the description as always. I do have to prepare for a debate on the Geek Room, where it's going to be me versus Godless Iowan debating the efficacy of Peter Pan peanut butter, because that hasn't ended yet. No matter what happens. She's shooting you the stink eye. Speaking of the cats, you know what? I haven't been able to successfully do a stream without these guys yet. So let's pull them here. See if I can do it without hopping off camera. I bet I can. Come on. Come on, guys. I can do it. I know I can. Aha! I gotcha. Got one of them. Yeah, these ones were actually left on our porch by the mom. So, now we have them. How's it going, Bubba? He's sleepy. His sister's sleepy as well. But I bet I can get her too. I bet I can do it. Ah! Walker, that's cheating. That's cheating! My roommate just took the kitten from me. I was not able to do it. It was just me actually getting the... There we go. They've grown so much. This terror, she was like the size of half my fist when we got her. Now she's quite large compared to that. It's hard for me to tell unless I'm looking at the camera because I know what they looked like in previous videos. Cub was created by a dyslexic dog owner. Fair. How you doing, guys? Alright, well now that we've officially had the cats on stream again, since we have to, with that said, I will be hopping out of here. Thank you guys for tuning in, and look forward to tomorrow's upload, and the upload after that, and the one after that, because I'm going to be torturing myself with daily uploads. See you guys.